Greetings. There is a controversy brewing, and of all places, the Saudi League. Unthinkable, unfathomable nonsense happening. Not really. I actually don't have any proof to offer you. I have ideas to offer you, and the fact that there are multiple players in the Saudi League now that are voicing openly that they believe the league is attempting to rig it so that Cristiano Ronaldo wins. The situation is as follows. There's 18 teams in the league, which means, only 34 league matches to be played over the course of the season. Al Nassr is currently top of the league by 2 points over Al-Hilal and 4 points over Al-Ahli, with one match in hand as well. So things are going rather swimmingly, right? Al-Hilal, of course, has, 8 draws, 20 wins, no losses, right? This has been a blistering race at the top of the league. Al-Qadsiya is the fourth team in there, but we're not talking about them today. The league race has essentially come down to 3 teams: Al-Ahli, Al-Hilal, and Al Nassr. And when you look at the recent matches, there has been some misfortune to befall some of these other teams, particularly Al-Ahli, who struggled and drew against Al-Faya, which drops them obviously, 2 points further back. That's 2 points dropped in this race. And at that point, after the match, they decided to put out a statement, which is super interesting because the initial perception of the Saudi League is that it's this kind of top-down, right, we're all moving in the same direction sort of situation where there isn't the same sort of rugged individualism between the different clubs, at least from my clearly uneducated outside perspective here, right? That it's kind of like a state-run league system where all the guys that own the teams are virtually different branches of the same tree. Instead of, if you get something like the Premier League, for example, or even MLS, you get owners beefing with each other all the time, beefing with the league all the time. You just don't expect that sort of thing to be an offshoot of the Saudi League itself because you feel like they're just going to be a little more cohesive than that. Turns out that's just not the fucking case, right? Al-Ahli puts out the statement. I'll go ahead and read that for you first. It says, Al-Ahli Club expresses its deep dissatisfaction with the refereeing errors that affected today's match. The team against Al-Faya in round 29 of the Saudi Russian League. The referee's decisions had a direct impact on the flow of the game and its final outcome, which in turn affected the team's position in the title race. Such errors raised legitimate concerns regarding the referee selection process and the criteria applied. Particularly given the high technical and competitive level of the Saudi League, the team has faced unfair refereeing decisions, an unacceptable situation that neither serves the development of the competition nor upholds the principles of competitive fairness, which must be the foundation of any successful tournament. Al-Ahli Club Company calls for access to the recordings and communications between the referees and the VAR, as well as their interactions with the team's players during the match. It also requests clear explanations for all refereeing incidents where decisions were not correctly made. So it's it was a scathing rebuke, right? I think basically that, this is the sort of thing that a Real Madrid, or in this case now apparently a Barcelona, these are the sorts of statements that they make in this situation to try and apply soft pressure on the league, on the the tournament if it's an intercontinental competition like Europa League or Champions League or whatever, in order to get more favorable decisions in the future. But you just don't, this is one step further because of what the players also get involved in, and I'll show you that in a second. Al-Ahli Club reaffirms its confidence in the commitment of the relevant authorities to safeguarding the integrity of the competition and taking the necessary steps that reflect the high standing the league has reached. Right, so they do include a thing at the end where they are making it clear they're not accusing the league of being corrupt, but they're opening the can. Right, they're not spilling all the beans, they're leaving the beans in the can, but they're opening the can. And it is my belief that it is probably in some way a coordinated effort to open the can and then have things like this happen, which would be Riyad Mahrez quote tweeting it and kind of going like, talk yo shit. That's the way I would interpret that, would be like, talk yo shit. And then, of course, there's Ivan Toney, who goes into an interview after the match. This interview's over 2 minutes. I'm not going to show you the whole thing, right? Actually, I'm not going to show you any of it. I'm just going to read the quote above it because we can then just keep talking about shit. The referee told us after the match, focus on the Asian Champions League. How does a referee say something like that? His head is somewhere else. I hope it was recorded and gets released. He was asked at a point in this interview, who benefits the team we're chasing, right? So it's being amplified. And then Ivan Toney is sitting down and implying that the benefiting team is going to be Cristiano Ronaldo. Now, I'm going to lay this out for you on a very base level. Saudi Arabia's investment in football benefits a lot if Cristiano Ronaldo wins the league. That is a fact. All right, that is just a up and down fact. They are paying Cristiano Ronaldo more than any other footballer's ever been paid, and it's not even close. Right? They are paying that guy actual GDP of country amounts of money. They are turning him into a multi-billionaire in terms of assets and resources and whatever, just to have him playing in Saudi Arabia. They want him to win the league. If you're making that kind of investment, because that kind of investment doesn't come from a club, right? It comes from the Saudi investment fund, which is the way I always equate the Saudi investment fund to things. Is it's basically like, imagine when you were 13 years old and they gave you $1 billion and you were really into sports, what would you do? You'd get an F1 race, you'd host a bunch of WWE stuff, you'd buy your favorite player. Like that's what they're doing. Right. But this wasn't a club decision. It was like an executive decision by whoever's calling those particular football-based shots, sports-based shots at the PIF. Okay. And they make that investment, bring Ronaldo over. They've clearly siphoned out, they've divided up the money that they're going to have and given to the different, members of the Saudi aristocracy or aspiring members of the Saudi aristocracy that are running these different clubs, and they've given them the set amount of money or maybe, a fluid amount of money that they can spend in order to try and build quality on their teams, because it is, the league up and down has a lot of quality. And if you look at the rosters of almost any of these top league teams in Saudi Arabia, you're going to see at least one or two names you recognize. Guys that have played in top 5 leagues in Europe, guys that were up-and-comers, guys that, they were able to lure with wages that were well above the market rate for those players, which I never blamed those players for taking that money, right? Because contracts in the world of football, unless you are at the very top of the game, are really good money. But when you're trying to take care of, like, let's say you're from Brazil, you're trying to take care of your whole favela, you don't really get the ammunition to do that playing for Osasuna. You know what I mean? You make good money to maybe take care of, to take care of yourself for sure for the rest of your life and maybe your family, depending on how long you have that contract. And we're not talking about ridiculously lavish, but if you go play in Saudi Arabia, if you get the opportunity to get one of those contracts, you get an amount of money that is in a completely different stratosphere. If you want to donate a ton of it to charity, if you want to take care of your favela, if you want to, you are then given that ammunition. You adding a ×3 to whatever you were making, at least ×6, ×9, amplification. And so that money is there, and that money has been provided consistently to develop the league, and has led to the league's really talented and competitive. And obviously the vibe around the league is a little weird because it's a new league, and I'm sure some players care more than others. It's more of just your natural competitiveness instead of like the competitiveness of the world around you pushing you forward. But Ivan Toney's playing his ass off, okay? Ivan Toney is playing incredibly well. He is currently the leader for goals this season. He's scored 27 goals. Al-Ahli's played 28 games. Right? They've only scored 55 goals as a club. He has half of them. One less than half. Right? Ronaldo's there at 23 goals. But the accusation levied here is just really interesting to me. Because, in the outside world, outside of Saudi football, you will hear people go, well, they're trying to make, they're giving easy penalties to Al Nassr. They're trying to make Ronaldo look good. They're trying to, because if Ronaldo does well, it is a great marketing point for the league. It brings a lot of attention to the league. Because you probably didn't know that Ivan Toney was popping off. That doesn't do nearly as much for the league, where if Cristiano Ronaldo was in the lead for the Golden Boot, they'd still be talking about it. Right? And if he wins the league, they'll absolutely be talking about it. And so I wouldn't be surprised if the amount of investment that was put in there and the fact that it is a kind of top-down, very centralized structure that Saudi Arabia runs, if they weren't dumbing the scales, like Real Madrid tries to do, right? It's not like ridiculous corruption, but it's kind of like, hey, we want this to happen. If it's close, give it to them. A great example of this, of course, is this penalty. which Al Nasser got in the last match. This is something that other people that were talking about this statement that Al-Ahli had released brought up, was like, start to look at these things that are happening. All right, this is in a match that is 2-2 in the second half. Ronaldo's taking a penalty. That penalty, that was called, sorry, I said he was taking a penalty. He's taking a free kick. That was called a penalty, right? Like, this dude keeps his arm stapled to his side, and they call that was given instantly as a penalty, not reversed on VAR. Al Nasser then storms 2 more goals in late and wins 5-2 to keep that position at the top of the league. I mean, it doesn't look good, right? Because you've got Al Hilal and Al-Ahli kind of making a little noise. Al-Ahli going, and I can imagine this took a lot, pretty nuclear to release a statement like this, right? And Ivan Toney throwing caution to the wind here. And I would imagine, given the fine print of these contracts in Saudi Arabia, where it is also like promoting Saudi Arabia and promoting Saudi tourism and whatever, I don't know how much of that is in Ivan Toney's contract, but talking about how, kind of hinting at the fact that this is all benefiting Ronaldo's team isn't necessarily going to help him, just in terms of he might get an angry phone call from somebody who goes, "What are you doing?" But they have to know that. They know that might be coming down the pipe. And they're talking about it anyways. They're willing to sit there anyways and go, "Look, I think this shit's rigged." Right? They're not saying it explicitly, but they're saying, like, "Look, I think the league's putting its thumb on the scale to get Ronaldo to the top of the league." And this is going to, as we get into the last 6 matches of the Saudi League season, this intensity and this thought process is going to ratchet up even more. And the decisions in Al Hilal, Al-Ahli, and Al Nasser matches are going to be scrutinized incredibly heavily. But welcome to the world of football, Saudi League. Even with a kind of different setup financially than most of the other leagues in the world, you are still not immune to the question of who has got the soft influence on the referees.